Welcome to the Coaching Cast, your working from home managers club. Here to check in with you weekly, to share your working highs and lows, remind you that you're not alone, and that there's many of us outside of your current four walls, all trying to be the best coach, leader, and manager we can be. I'm Suzy, sales and business coach at Future You Business Coaching, currently taking on my hardest coaching assignment to date, parenting a toddler who doesn't take too kindly to being questioned.
And I'm Lisa, founder of Grip Corporate Coaching, personal performance coach, leader, and chief eye roller when it comes to all nonsensical corporate mumbo jumbo which suffocates rather than advocates.
In this podcast, we aim to explore the leadership and coaching techniques required to navigate and survive the current business environment. Presenting different topics each episode, which we will discuss with some special guests along the way, sharing ideas, hints and tips for you to take away and try for yourself. We hope you enjoy listening. Today's episode is a rather special one, featuring a VIP guest. That guest is Martyn, my dad, who is kicking off a special feature where we will both be interviewing our dads for their take and experiences on certain topics in their career. In this week's episode, we're talking to Martyn about his experiences in creating a coaching culture within the workplace. So stay with us and enjoy. So before we get into this week's episode, Lisa, how are you? What's been going on?
Yeah, so I had my interesting first experience of taking a lateral flow test for COVID.
Oh, okay.
So I ordered my packs from the government's website, doing the right thing.
Very good.
I was going to see my family down in Kent for the first time in months or whatever. And my mum had said that she would be more comfortable if I did the lateral flow test. Not conclusive, but I thought, yeah, okay, of course I will. I don't want her to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, very sensible.
So I took the lateral flow test. That is what it's called, isn't it? It's a lateral flow test. That's right, yeah. Very techie piece of kit. I don't think it's going to help us to save the oceans, if I'm being perfectly honest. I've never seen so much plastic packaging in my life. I totally think we're regressing on our plastic usage because of COVID, but I think that's a whole nother topic for another day. But anyway, so I did the lateral flow test, and this was the night before I was travelling back. And the result came back, clear. So I don't have COVID currently, so that's good news. And I took a picture of the test result and sent it to my mum. And I got the reply back, as I was expecting. I thought she'd be pleased. And it was, oh my God, I'm so happy for you both. Congratulations. Well done. And I was thinking, well, I know she's looking forward to seeing me. And it has been many, many months because of the lockdown situation.
Yeah.
And I'm really pleased that she's this excited, but it does feel a little bit over the top. And my mum is not particularly, I would say, that overly expressive when it comes to her opinions or emotions as such, in terms of, she doesn't get really overexcited about things. So this response was a little bit bizarre. And I was thinking, well, she's obviously looking forward to seeing me. But then I read the message again and she said, I'm so happy for you both. And I was thinking, well, it's only me coming home. My husband wasn't coming as well. And he hadn't taken the lateral flow test. And I was like, well, what on earth has it got to do with him? I mean, yes, obviously he's happy that I haven't got COVID as well. But then I looked at it again and I thought, oh God. And I realised that actually the lateral flow test looks very similar to a pregnancy test.
No.
And she had clearly thought that I'd sent her a picture of a positive pregnancy test. So I was like, I literally replied to this text message, and the exchange of this messaging is hilarious. I literally replied going, Mum, it's my COVID test. And her reply was classic. She was like, oh my God. She was like, I feel like a right plonker. She was like, I'm mortified.
Goshing.
And I said to her, oh no, I feel like such a disappointment now. I was like, what a letdown. No, sorry, Mum, we're not having a baby. I just don't have COVID at the moment. But yeah, absolutely, bless her. Hilarious, like totally
her.
hilarious. But yeah, I did feel like a right letdown. So, I mean, she was obviously thrilled that I could come home and visit, but she did say, she was like, oh God, I'm so sorry. And she said, I was at work and I was rushing around and I just looked at your message really quickly.
Oh, bless her.
I was literally like I would send a pregnancy test result as a WhatsApp with a thumbs up emoji. I mean, like,
we're good to go.
I was literally like, don't you think I would have phoned you and sort of said I'm pregnant rather than just sent you a picture with a cheeky emoji, thumbs up? No.
Oh my God, that is a brilliant story.
So yeah, that was funny. That was my story for this week.
That is honestly a cracker of a story. I'm so glad I asked you how your week's been, because that's eventful. Eventful, yeah. Definitely. Oh, bless your mum.
I know. But everyone, look at the lateral flow test. You'll see the confusion. They do look quite similar to a contraception test, like a pregnancy test.
Yeah, they do look very similar. I can see where the confusion arose. 100%. But what a brilliant story. Oh my goodness me.
Oh dear me.
Yeah, well, my week's not been quite as eventful as that. My highlight this week is I have finished the reality series Below Deck.
Oh, I've only ever watched one episode of that. I wanted to, quite honestly, I found them all so irritating I couldn't watch anymore.
Oh, well, I've watched 15 series of Below Deck. It's been 10 months in the making and it concluded this week. So anyone who follows us on Instagram will know that I do really like reality TV. It's my escape. It's my kind of like getting out of every day. But Below Deck is next level. I'm absolutely obsessed with it, mainly because we can't go on holiday at the moment. So it's like getting a bit of holiday in my everyday life. So I like that.
Yeah.
We're on a massive yacht, which I will never be able to afford to go on. So I literally love like seeing behind the scenes of what a yacht looks like. They're all flipping crazy on the whole that go on there. Guests and a little bit of staff. And my favourite captains are definitely Captain Sandy and Captain Lee. They're absolute ledges. And I've, bit sad actually. I'm mourning the fact I've got no more episodes of Below Deck to watch.
Oh.
So,
did it conclude as you'd hoped?
Well, it was all a bit rushed so there's two series, there's Mediterranean and Caribbean. Caribbean concluded with COVID, so it kind of concluded quite rapidly. And Mediterranean
COVID casualty.
Yeah, it was definitely a COVID casualty. And then Mediterranean kind of concluded in a normal way. I think it was like pre-COVID times, because I watched the Caribbean series first and then went on to Mediterranean. Anyway, this is really boring. But basically, I'm a bit sad because I've got no more Below Deck to watch.
Oh, no. Got to find another reality show to tuck into.
I know. There's some new Housewives coming out, though, so I think I can get on to...
You're going to survive. You're going to be okay, Suzy.
Yeah. But so that's probably the highlight of my week, actually. But I think we should move swiftly on from reality TV and lateral flow tests, and let's get cracking with today's episode.
Let's do it.
As mentioned, our special guest today is my dad, Martyn. He has had an impressive 38-year career in the public sector, working across several different agencies, including secondments to our military forces and to the voluntary sector. He has held a variety of operational, strategic and customer-facing roles, and in latter years gained chartered membership to the CIPD to aid his impact in leadership positions in both HR and L&D. Whilst not a qualified coaching practitioner, Martyn has experience of coaching through several different personal and corporate lenses. He's been a coach, he has been a recipient of coaching and helped deliver a major departmental leadership programme which had coaching at its core. In his own words, coaching is when you listen, challenge, support and listen some more. So, Dad, welcome to the Coaching Cast. We are both really looking forward to talking to you today, especially as you are the Coaching Cast's #1 fan. So, no pressure for us to do a good job today.
Thank you for that introduction. It's brilliant to be here. I'm really looking forward to it. I don't know whether I'm your number one fan or not, but the podcast has been fantastic. I've really enjoyed it. It's been really thought-provoking, and you should be very proud and pleased with yourselves. That'd be the first thing I would say.
Thanks, Martyn.
You can come on again with that kind of intro.
And the other thing is, I'm determined at some point I'm going to get in Paradigm Shift.
Yes, brilliant.
Yes, absolutely. For any of our listeners, Paradigm Shift is one of our bullshit bingos from season 1. It's probably one of our top bullshit bingos, which Martyn absolutely provided for us. So yeah, let's see if we can get it in the conversation today.
I think we should.
I love it. Love the challenge.
So we're focusing our discussion today with you around the subject of creating a coaching culture in the workplace and its importance. So to start off, can you give us a brief explanation or description of what a coaching culture means for you in your experience?
Yeah, okay. I was thinking about this earlier. I came up with quite a lot of different stuff, actually, and it sort of reminded me that I think it will mean different things to different people. A coaching culture, and it'd be interesting to see what your reflections are of what I say. I settled on sort of 3 things really, but they fall out of coaching becoming an inherent part of everyday working life. So to the extent almost that you don't know that it's going on, and I think that's the ideal. That's where you can aspire to get to. And there's probably 3 parts of that for me. One is that the organisation itself has to recognise that coaching interventions can make a real difference. So there's an acceptance organisationally that they can make a real difference. The second bit is that both leaders and coaches, leaders and managers coach in their everyday interactions. That's a really important piece for me. And thirdly, I think, and probably most importantly, is the realization that good coaching is not just about improving the performance of an individual, but recognizing that if you can do that, then your business outcomes as an organization will improve as well. Mm-hmm. So that, it's in that sense, it's a means to an end. So that, for me, that's the sort of picture of a coaching culture that I would describe. As I say, I think there's probably a bit of a spectrum there, and different people have different perspectives on it. But that's how I would encapsulate it, and I'd genuinely be interested in whether that chimes with your thoughts on it or not.
Yeah, I think it's a really good description of what a coaching culture can be and how it can kind of come to life in an organization. I think that your first point around acceptance is really interesting, and in my experience, but people really understanding, I think, what a coaching approach can bring in terms of benefits to like you say, both individuals, teams, and fundamentally performance, and also how you can bring it to life and how you can do it on actually like a really informal, low-key scale that then just kind of builds the more you do it, and kind of then I suppose kind of goes again and again and again, and everybody and then suddenly kind of gets it and then wants to start doing it and sees the results. And I think because coaching can be such a intangible thing, like approach, a lot of people don't always necessarily fully understand it and what the benefits are, and until you probably work in a space where it's been exemplified around how it can really have an impact on people.
I think the point there about conversation is the best starting point. I think sometimes when it comes to these types of theories, they stay too much in that theoretical space.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of the time individuals struggle with the concept of them, both, at any level, but especially I think at a leadership level, when potentially coaching is not necessarily a skill set that you've learned or had the opportunity to develop, whether that's, also based on the fact you may not have even experienced it, not in a conscious way anyway. But I think you've got to start with supporting a culture of open conversation, because I think when you're in that space where it's about talking to individuals, connecting with them, sharing feedback like we were talking about in last week's episode, Suze, and you're already creating that foundation for openness and honesty and transparency, I guess. I think only when you've done that can you then start factoring in coaching, because you're already having conversations. And really coaching in its most simplistic terms is just about having really effective value adding conversations. Yes, there's more of an emphasis when you're the one initiating the coaching of listening more, like, you know, you shared in Martyn's introduction, Suzy, about what coaching is. Yes, if you're going to be the coach, you have to adopt more of a listening role so that you're really absorbing the information and ensuring that you're recognizing what's going on for the person and what's important, and not just going straight in with your own thoughts and views. But I think actually being in that more kind of proactive space of sharing is the right place to start, because I think otherwise coaching is too much of a big step. Because if you're not already doing that, you're not going to coach, I'd highly doubt, because you're already not really spending time with each other and already not sort of talking to each other. And
you make a really good point there about having that foundation to then kind of build from. And I think if you don't have that, because you don't have that experience or that awareness, it's hard then to kind of like accept the benefits of it, because it's not true and real to you. And I think, so, you know, the point that Martyn raises there at the start around the importance of that acceptance is really, really critical.
It's about creating the environment to a degree, isn't it? About creating the environment for it to work. And you can ask, do we introduce coaching in order to create the right environment, or does the right environment allow us to do good coaching? It's, you know, it is chicken and egg a little bit. But you're totally right. But if you can create the right environment, and you get some of the other things you've talked about in the podcast, you can create the trust, you can create the authentic relationships. Then all of that helps just to do the coaching conversations. And I think if you can get into the almost informal coaching conversations, if you can get to that point where they work on a day-to-day basis, they're almost more beneficial than the more formal coaching interventions, I would call them, that people set up and do. I totally agree. I think in one of my previous roles, this is quite a long time ago, it was actually before I had realized that I had discovered coaching. And I say it like that because of exactly the point you've just made, Martyn, which is the daily small interventions that actually I was being supported by little coaching conversations, but I didn't realize, because I didn't know that's what they were. And that was by one leader in particular, who is by far one of the best leaders I've ever had the privilege to work with, back in my energy days. And I remember him, whenever we spoke to each other, and they were like corridor chats or sitting in the canteen, he would be coaching me, but I just didn't realize. I thought he was just being inquisitive. I thought he was just being genuine. I mean, and I think that's the beauty of coaching, is actually when it really is genuinely being administered to support the other person, you feel cared for. So you feel looked after and nurtured, and someone's interested in you, like they're seeing you, if that makes sense. And I remember at this particular time, the intervention came at a point when I was feeling particularly low in my career and very isolated and quite lost. And so its impact was even stronger, because I really felt as though I was receiving support. But he literally would just sit me down and ask me a couple of questions, and then literally I'd walk away feeling re-energized and a little bit clearer. But as I said, I had no idea that he was coaching me until I actually sought professional coaching help and had coaching from a professional coach outside of the organisation, and realised how incredibly powerful it was, and decided that's what I would like to do myself. I'd like to train to be a coach. But I remember being in those coaching sessions with my professional coach and being like, oh my
God, this is what he's been doing, and I did not know. Like this manager of mine, I was just like, a penny drop. I was like, oh my God, I didn't realise. I just thought he was brilliant. I mean, he was brilliant, but I didn't realise he also had like this magical skill that he'd learned.
Yeah.
I think I'd make this is quite a sweeping statement. Again, I'll be interested in what you think about it, but it draws out, I think, what Lisa's just said. So I would say that if all of our excellent leaders are invariably very good coaches, and that's because they're emotionally intelligent.
Yes.
And note, I didn't say all of our leaders. I said all of our excellent leaders, and not all our leaders are excellent. But the ones that are excellent are emotionally intelligent, and because of that, they're good coaches. They're naturally good. They're good coaches, and they do the things that you've just described, Lisa. I think they're inquisitive. They've got time. They draw things out of you. They don't give you the answer, do they? They draw things out of you, and then they provide the challenge and the support. And the other thing I would say is that it's HR director was my professional coach in an HR leadership position, and I had a leadership coach for my leadership stuff, and both of them actually used an approach where they wanted to talk about a situation of my choice, which I'd experienced over the last days or weeks or whatever it was, and that could be a good or a bad situation, but something which had happened, and we just talked through it, why it went well, why it went badly, what I might have done differently. And I think if you can couch it in just real life, that makes a world of difference as well to the effectiveness of the conversation.
Yeah, I agree, because I know as well, like I've put on my LinkedIn recently, quite controversially, because I am obviously a trained coach, but I think, Lisa, you will probably have the same view, but when you're coaching somebody and you ask them what their goal is, a lot of people can't answer that question because it's too abstract, it's too far away, it's not tangible enough, it's not real life enough for them right there and then in that moment. And that's because I think when you reframe the question, so you might reframe it as in like, what's your ideal outcome from our time together today? That brings it into the present day, and that makes it more real, and they can bring in real life situations, real life experiences, problems that they might want to talk through and, pick apart and think about how they're going to solve and move forward with. So I think you're right, actually, that when you have a coach, hopefully a really good coach, which sounded like you did in that experience, where you can bring real life true examples which are important to you or are impacting you, and you can explore them in a safe and knowledgeable and positive environment, the impact of that is just huge. And I think it's hard unless you've been through it and you've experienced it yourself. Sometimes it's hard to demonstrate what the benefits of that can be.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's been your experience of, I suppose, a coaching culture as a leader?
Well, I might talk a little bit about why we did it, I guess, and how we did it. That might sort of help that answer some of that. And there's two parts to the why, I think, in my personal experience anyway. So we, as an organization, so 15 to 20 years ago, we didn't have a coaching culture in my organization, and questionably we didn't. And I worked at a place where technology was really at the heart of the organization, and as we all know, technology changes really quickly. And as we got more and more into the internet age, the organisation had to reinvent itself, not once, but every few years. And that's a massive leadership challenge to do that on a sort of continuing basis. And that sort of reinvention meant that we needed to keep developing our leadership cadre of people. So for us, we had I guess what I'm saying there is we had a strategic driver, really. We had a big strategic driver that meant that we had to develop the leadership within the organisation, and one of the ways that we set out to do that was by using coaching.
Okay.
So that's one of the reasons why I think for me, and we talked about this already actually a little bit. There's more general reasons for why as well. I think you don't necessarily need a strategic driver, is what I'm saying. And I think about it in this way. You know, if you're a good manager or a good leader, or if you want to embrace diversity, for example, as well, you know, there are good moral reasons for doing those things. You want to do the right thing. You know, you want to do the right thing for the people that work for you. And, you know, you want to develop people, and all of those are the right, good and proper reasons for doing effective coaching in this context. But actually also, as we've talked about already, good management, good leadership, effective coaching will make your business better. Yeah. And we shouldn't forget that. It's not just about developing people for developing people's sake. It's actually about improving your business outcomes as well. You know, and if there's people out there with small or medium-sized businesses who are wondering about whether to invest in coaching, I would say, well, A, you must look upon it as an investment, not a cost. And secondly, just remember that it should, if it's done properly, it will improve your business outcomes, I think, almost inevitably. Mm. So that's how I would encapsulate the why, probably. But we had a particular journey in terms of the how. And the way we went about it was that we started with our most senior people, our most senior leaders. So we started with the board. The board had coaches, external, highly competent external coaches, executive coaches. They each had one. Each member of the board had a coach. They were externally appointed. And then we set out to do, if you got promoted to a senior position, then it was then part of your contract that you would have a coach, and you would have coaching time.
Mm. Oh, okay.
So it was quite a commitment and quite an investment for us. But over time, starting with that, that resulted us in having quite a different makeup of leadership. You know, we had leaders then who were more positive about change. They were more creative. They were more confident. They took more risks. And most importantly, they recognized for themselves the importance of coaching. So they wanted to become coaches themselves, for example. Mm. We built it from the top down. I'm not saying that's the right answer for everybody, but that's what we did. We built it from the top down, and we gradually built over years. We built that coaching culture from the top down. So that's how we went about it in the organisation where I was. And so we built capability.
Yeah. So in terms of that shift change, what did it actually feel like, and what did it look like? Because I think when we talk about culture, again, this can be a bit intangible too.
Yeah.
It's it feels like a really like solid word that everyone goes, yeah, I know what that means and I know what that is, but I don't know if we do. And so I think it'd be really helpful from your experience, Martyn, because you've obviously gone through this incredible transition to go from not having coaching present in your organisation to actually bringing it in and really driving it top down. So what did that then start to look and feel like in respect of how it transformed the work environment and the culture that was within it?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And like you, I mean, you know, we used to have endless discussions about cultural change in the organisation. What does that mean? You know, I do get that. I think it's really, how did it felt different because, and I wouldn't say, I don't want to paint too rosy a picture about it, I guess, because it's really difficult to get what I've described running throughout the whole organisation. But I think it certainly moved and it's certainly improved over time. I think I would describe it as being much more supportive. I think there was much less blame associated with people. So you could make mistakes, and the time spent on thereafter was much more about how do we learn from that as individuals and as an organisation than previously. Mm. That didn't mean people weren't held to account, because we were. I certainly felt as I was held to account on occasions. But you do that in such a way as to continue to develop people, and that is quite a shift change actually when I stop and think about it from where we were previously.
Yeah, absolutely. To go from maybe what was previously, if I'm right, from what I've heard that you say, and I apologise if I misunderstood, but moving away from that, like blaming and trying to seek why did this happen, and then focus too much in the event itself, rather than, as you know, you then describe the coaching enabled people to start moving much more into it's happened, so what do we do about that, and how do we learn from it, and how do we move forwards? And I think, you know, talking about the accountability piece, I think that is a huge benefit of coaching. And I think when individuals are experiencing coaching and being taken on that coaching journey, one of the most incredibly impactful outputs of that is the accountability that grows from it, because as an individual, it's very much a method to have you question, well, what can I do, and what decisions am I going to make, and what actions will I take to move that forward and implement that. And it all very much becomes about you and what you're going to do, which, you know, tied to the right sort of fitting, motivating goals, that is a very energizing experience. It's, you know, it's very empowering, and absolutely will drive that much more efficient effectiveness around individuals, everyone playing a part, taking on responsibility, which I can't see why any organisation would not want, because you want every individual to be contributing.
Of course you do, yeah. And the aggregation of that is a better performing organisation.
And I think as well, I was just going to say, I think as well from what you've said there, like in summary, I think as well it changes the focus to be forward focused, so future focused. Because you're not dwelling, or you're not spending a huge amount of time looking backwards at, you know, what went wrong, where is there, you know, blame accountable, where, you know, you do that, but you do it more from a reflective perspective about what you've learned and how you move that into the future. And I think that shift is how, you know, to your point, is how it then kind of aggregates up into becoming a culture that feels different, because you're all of a sudden looking, everybody ideally is more looking future focused and forward, and in a more positive way than kind of living a little bit still in what has happened before.
Well, I think that's very true, isn't it? I said just now about my own experience of coaching, being coached, was that, you know, both of my coaches wanted to talk about real life events, and those could be good or bad. So it wasn't just about that went terrible, how the hell do we get so that didn't happen again. It could be something which went really well, because you still learn from those things as well. You can learn from both those situations. So it, you know, you draw the learning points out of positive and negative circumstances, if it's done well and properly.
So I know that when you were obviously kind of on this, I'm going to use a bullshit bingo. When you were on this journey,
I've said journey
on this
already.
journey.
Oh.
I don't think it's a bullshit bingo, this one. I'm going to say this only because I use it so often.
I use it all the time.
Every time I say it, I can see your eyebrows, Suzy, going, oh, she said journey.
She's thinking my dad had ate that.
Yeah. I'm like, I need to check myself with my journeys, but I'm going to use it. I can't think of an alternative word, if I'm honest. So when you were on this conquest to implement more of a coaching approach in the organisation, I know you, as a kind of leadership team, implemented a really interesting coaching initiative, which I certainly hadn't heard about before. And I know it had kind of varied levels of success, but that was where more junior people in the department actually went and coached more senior level colleagues. Tell us a little bit about that and your experience of that initiative.
Okay, it wasn't a big thing that we did, but it's something we did try. The context to it was that we had an external company that were providing executive coaching mainly, but as part of that development program, we developed some of our own internal coaches and who qualified like you two, and did all the external qualifications and had a lot of began to accumulate experience externally as coaches as well. But then we drew them back in, and used them as coaches internally. And we did try a situation where we had them as coaches to more senior people, and it had mixed success. And I think it probably was mixed because, well, probably a couple of reasons actually. It is quite difficult. At the end of the day, it's quite difficult because the senior people they're in positions taking decisions, some of which are sensitive, some of which might affect colleagues of the people that are coaching them. So they can end up feeling a bit of reserve about some of that. Some of them, to be frank, just didn't like it because the people were junior. They didn't give them the same sort of level of credibility as some of the external coaches. So it wasn't an easy thing, and I don't think we did it for very long actually. Not in those terms, anyway. So it was tricky. I'm interested in what you see. My own view on it is that these were professionally qualified people who still brought a different perspective to the people being coached. They still were able to see things differently from the people being coached. They were still able to challenge them. They were still able to support them. They were still able to listen to them and try and provide some context for what they were going through. So I think it probably could have been more successful than it was, but it comes back to where we've really started the conversation. I think that people need to be receptive to the idea, for it to take hold. And I don't, in the majority of cases, they probably weren't. And I think for some understandable reasons, to be honest, some not so understandable.
Because what was the logic behind the initiative?
The logic behind it, we wanted to build our own capability, because we wanted to start using internal coaches to develop our own coaches. So as we came down the organisation trying to create the coaching culture, we needed more and more people, and we couldn't afford to send everybody out to be professionally qualified. So we used some of our own internal people to train our own coaches. That was the sort of logic behind it. And I guess it's a bit of an experiment. We thought we'd try the upward coaching thing.
I think it's a really interesting example of a test and learn within a coaching environment. So I know, like we've spoken a bit about it before, Dad, and like it definitely kind of struck a chord with me from a curiosity perspective, because I've worked in a big organization. I've never seen that being done. I've never heard of it coming the other way. Rather, normally you find more senior people kind of coaching, slightly more junior level employees. So I actually think it's really interesting in itself around flipping it and thinking about the benefit. And I think as an intervention, purely looking at it formulaically, I think it's one that probably has got a lot of potential. But I think you're right in what you said, the environment and probably individuals' perception of the fact that I'm going to probably have to be vulnerable here. I'm probably going to have to be honest and truthful. And it's hard because I'm going to have to do that to people who, are working in my team or working in my department, and I'm going to have to open myself up to them. And I can see how those dynamics, might come into play and then affect the impact that intervention might have. But I think it's actually quite a groundbreaking kind of idea on its own, and I think in the right environment it could work really, really well. So I found it really interesting. I think
conceptually it's perfectly doable. Practically, it's very difficult.
It's really interesting. I think the challenge in all of that is the hierarchy, isn't it? Which, I mean, I've worked in very hierarchical businesses before where I know that this approach would just never work. I love it, but it just would never work. On the grounds that actually, when I first started training to be a coach, I was met with challenge from senior directors around why I was doing it. And even I wasn't even coaching them. I was training myself and funding it to support my growth as an individual and to give more to the organisation and or more to the people I was leading. And yet there were still directors in my organisation who were threatened by the fact that I was doing it, which was it was such a bizarre experience at the time. That was what I was met with. For wanting to invest in my growth and development and being quite happy to do that without asking them for any support. I mean, it was a bit odd, but it probably tells you all you need to know about them. But
I think fair play for giving it a shot. Play.
It's a mindset thing, isn't it, as well, then, which we've talked about already. You know, is the individual and the organisation actually ready for that sort of approach? And maybe we weren't quite at that point. I don't know. Mindset's really important in all that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So were there any in your experience then of trying to implement this coaching culture, make it become part of your everyday, were there any drawbacks in doing that in your experience?
I can't think of any drawbacks particularly. I mean, we met some resistance to it. I mean, not everybody got it. And again, we're circling the same thing here, really. You've got to have people and organisation that's receptive to the idea of it. I think that was probably what we fought most. But I think doing it the way we did it in the circumstances we were in. So, for example, saying that if you reached a certain position, then you will have coaching.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you don't get to that position. Then you gradually, over time, begin to overcome that.
So that buy-in, then, that this approach is really significant. It can really positively impact both the individual and business performance and outcomes, like you were talking about before. How did you build that buy-in? Was that from a senior level because actually it was contractual? And it was part of the deal around if you got promoted, this is it. So you sign up for this and this is how it is. Or was there anything more that you guys did around helping kind of create this buy-in from others that this is the right thing to be doing?
Well, I think the buy-in came over time because people began to see the benefit of it.
Okay.
Both individually and organisationally. So once we had that cadre of people who were bought into it because they benefited from it themselves, and 90% of them accepted that they did benefit from it, then you began to see the benefits organisationally of that. So I think that's what it grew organically, really, as a consequence of that.
Would you say it was an intervention that was offered to everyone, either formally or informally? So it was inclusive in the way that it was used in the organisation?
The broader development programme was organisation. The coaching piece of it, I think, wasn't. But it did, again, organically really begin to permeate the whole organisation over time, and I'm talking about years, really.
Yeah.
I think that was the way I would describe it. We didn't have a formal program or a formal coaching culture, which we intended to embrace the whole organisation. But I think it reached many parts of the organisation, just through the fact that people began to realise what the benefits were.
Yeah. And then they start role modelling it, don't they? Like line managers, think, oh, actually, this is the way I've been managed in the past. And again, they might not know they've been coached, but actually this style really worked for me. And then as they get promoted or, move into different roles, I think actually I'm going to look at how I can do that in my own management style and leadership style.
The better ones did. Again, we go back to that. The ones that are emotionally intelligent, the ones that were good managers anyway, good leaders anyway, they recognised that and they role modelled it. That wasn't all of them.
Yeah. Yeah. If only every leader could be emotionally intelligent.
Yeah.
Lisa, our purpose would be achieved in life.
Quite. But hell, that's what makes us all interesting anyway. We're not all the same.
Exactly. It'd be boring if we all were.
Exactly.
That's for sure.
Can I tell you my golfing analogy on this? You can use this or cut it. It's up to you. But it's a bit abstract, but it's sort of relevant to this part of it, I think. So I'm a golfer, and all of the modern day professional competition golfers have a coach. All of them, but without exception. If you go back 30 years, then none of them had a coach, and they were just beginning to get introduced. And Lee Trevino, who was a top golfer 30 years ago, was heard to say that I'll employ a coach when I can find one that can beat me at golf. So his mindset was completely closed to the idea that somebody else can't do what he does as well as him, can see things that he can't see, challenge him to try things which he's never tried before, and then support him as he tries those different things. It's the same concept, it's the same principle as we talked about already. And that, as a golfer, that made quite an impression on me, because you can transfer that to the workplace. And if you can get your own head into that sort of situation, I think coaching can make a hell of a difference to anybody, whatever industry or profession that you're in.
Agreed. I love that. I've never heard that before. Well, obviously until you told me it last week, but prior to that, I was like, yeah, that's a very powerful anecdote around the benefit of being open to coaching, for sure. Amazing. Okay, Lisa, have you got any more questions?
No.
Last question then from me. So, what would be your 3 hints and tips for anyone who is wanting to build a coaching culture in their team or organization?
They would be, to summarize some things we've said already, I think, they would be to view coaching as a means of improving your business outcomes, to coach as part of your everyday interactions, and finally, I've got to say, to listen, to support, to challenge, and to listen some more.
Listen, support, challenge, and listen some more.
Yeah.
I like that one. I like the emphasis on listening.
Yeah, I love that. And like you said, keep it real and keep it really real.
Keep it really real.
It's now time for Bullshit Bingo, where we call out phrases which get commonly used in the workplace, which make us cringe. Today's Bullshit Bingo is from Adele, who gave us this as a reply to our shout out for Bullshit Bingos in one of our recent Instagram posts. And it is, let's kick the can down the road. Suze, what are your thoughts on this one?
I love this one. I've never actually heard this.
No, I haven't either.
At work.
Let's kick the can down the road.
What does it mean? Do you know?
I don't know. I haven't got. Did Adele not give any context?
No, it was just kind of like this one. So Adele, if you're listening, can you Instagram us or send us an email, because we'd love to know what this actually means, because it's brilliant as a kick sentence.
I mean, I literally can't imagine how this even features in a work conversation.
My guess is I think it's about like making progress on something. So
not take the rubbish out. No?
Like making progress with something. That's my interpretation. It could also be like, can you take the rubbish out?
Yeah, there's something I thought it meant like, kick the can down the road, as in like, let's get rid of this. As in like, let's throw this idea out the window. No good. Let's move on. No?
Interesting. I don't know. But I have to say, again, if I'd heard this being used in the workplace, I'd literally would have just kind of burst out laughing, because it's hilarious. I mean, in what context would you use this sentence? Like, I can't think of any.
Let's kick the can down the road. No.
That is like a normal setting, is the normal context that you'd use in a normal, straightforward, non-bullshit bingo, corporate, mumbo-jumbo based conversation. There is none.
No, I'm lost. Adele, you need to help us out here. We really need a bit more information.
But we love it.
We love it anyway.
Great.
Because it's so ridiculous.
Yeah,
so ridiculous.
The more ridiculous they are, the better. The more we love them. So get those ridiculous bullshit bingos on email to us or Instagram message us, because we genuinely love receiving them. So please, please, please send us more bullshit bingos. We are coming to the end of today's episode, where we've been speaking with Martyn about building a coaching culture. Our tips from today for you to try from our conversation with Martyn:
view coaching as a means to improve business outcomes is number one. Number two, coach in everyday interactions. Make it part of the conversation. And number three, which is my favourite from Martyn, listen, support, challenge, and listen some more.
Yeah. And what else did he say? Keep it real.
Keep it real.
Really real, people.
Oh, that's it. I like that. Keep it real. Keep it really real.
Yeah.
Good old Martyn.
Thanks, Martyn. So also try asking yourself the following questions this week. And also you can use these to practice with yourselves, but also with others. So number one, what do you think you do to enhance and empower others at work? Number two, when do you get the best out of others? And number three, what changes can you make to positively enhance your relationships with those you manage and also your colleagues and peers? We hope you enjoyed today and have some new ideas to take away and try for yourselves. If you have any questions, thoughts, or feedback, we would love to hear from you. You can contact us at hello@thecoachingcast.co.uk or on Instagram @thecoachingcast.
Your support means everything. Therefore, if you like what you've heard, then give us a follow on Instagram @thecoachingcast. Leave us a review on Apple and Google Podcasts. And most importantly, subscribe to future episodes wherever you listen, and also on YouTube by searching The Coaching Cast. Our episode next week also features a guest. We're being joined by Rob Stevenson, who is the incredibly inspirational CEO of FormScore and founder of the Inside Out Leaderboard. He is a keynote speaker, a mental health campaigner, and also recently did his first TED Talk. He is an incredible advocate for well-being and mental health, and we are super excited to be talking to him around the whole topic of creating a well-being workplace.
So excited for that episode and for talking to Rob. We both love music and use it to motivate and energize us. So we like to finish each episode with our personal song recommendation, giving you positivity and energy as you launch into your next Zoom or Teams meeting. It's my choice this week, and I have chosen More Than Love by Andy Moore, Somna and Limni. So have a look it up and have a listen. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great week. And remember, you've got this.